eradicated in his lifetime.
Yeah.
So this evening, Caleb's presentation is very cleverly titled, Caleb, Don't Let Your Boardroom Become a Boardroom.
Great, thank you, Leah. Yeah, I'll give you $50 a bit later on. So, hey, welcome to, and I just want to extend my gratitude for you being here at 5 o'clock. I want to get you guys out at 6. But I just wanted to share with you, first of all, my journey, and then ask what you guys are expecting from today. So today I'm talking about don't let your boardrooms be your boardroom. But when I was a youngster, I was about 10 years old, and I remember speaking up in front, or standing up in front of the classroom, and I was forced to read a story. And as I was reading, I remember my hands shaking and my palms sweating, and I'm absolutely, my legs are shaking. And I remember being so nervous, and maybe you know what it's like to be up on stage and actually feel like you're nervous and dry mouth. And I read the story, and I remember sitting down and thinking, oh my gosh, this is like the worst experience I've ever had. And I thought to myself, I just want to hide it, I don't want anyone to see me. And then Mr. Butcher comes up, my teacher, and he says, Caleb, I recognise when you stood up and you spoke, you were nervous, you were shaking, your dry mouth. I'm like, oh, thanks Mr. Butcher, thanks for pointing that out. And then I said, well, but I noticed that as you read the story, you got more confident, your voice was getting louder, and you were speaking louder and louder, your legs started shaking less and less. And it was at that moment I recognised that Mr. Butch recognised something in me that I didn't see in myself. And that was the sense that I could actually become a good communicator, that I could become a good speaker. Fast forward a few more years, I am in primary school and high school, I'm delivering presentations and I'm actually enjoying them. And then I joined this organisation called Toastmasters. Have you guys heard of Toastmasters?
Yeah. I have.
You have?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Emily? That's okay, don't worry about it. It's okay. Yeah. Well, Toastmasters is like the largest public speaking organisation in the world. It's made up of little clubs, made up of about 10 to 20 people. There's about 80 of them here in Perth. And I joined that club, and as a result, I got to meet my boss, John, who had to speak at an event, like a TED-style event, and we had to create a speech on creativity. And he's a brilliant mind. John's a brilliant mind. He's an entrepreneur. He now lives in New York. But for the life of him, he cannot figure out how to write his own speech. He couldn't structure his own speech. So with the experiences I had with Toastmasters and my passion for public speaking, I helped him be able to structure a presentation. And so on the night, I turn up and I see him deliver his speech. And amongst all the presenters, the feedback that I got was that his was the best. And it proved validation for me. Hey, I really enjoyed helping my boss with his presentation skills. And even though I was a web designer, a web coder, I thought, I don't want to be a coder for the rest of my life. I don't want to be a web monkey for the rest of my life. So I made the transition to become a presentation consultant for my own firm, Presenter Labs, and I've had the privilege of helping many people in many firms deliver fantastic presentations and eradicate death by PowerPoint at the same time. Right. So what I want to discover now that you know what I'm about, I want to discover what you guys are about and why you decided to turn up here today. And so what I like to do is just to introduce yourself, if that's possible, and then tell us what you're looking to get out of today. Great. Emily, would you like to start off? Yeah. Just introduce yourself, where you work for, and what you're wanting to discover from today.
I'm a freelancer, so
Yeah.
I don't have too much opportunity to practice my presentation.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think I will need this skill, so just be able to learn some tips.
Yeah. Learn to some tips on presenting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's cool. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Justin, so I've done presentations in various countries of the world, and one of the things that I've gone through in my journey is learning how to stage presentations, but also learning. I'm not a very good writer. I get people to write presentation, my slides and my speeches for me. I have been put on the spot where you kind of just stand up, so I know that nervous feeling where you're just like, go do an hour presentation, you've got 10 minutes to prep. You know, it's pretty fun. So I'm here today to, I guess, learn a few tips and tricks about how to structure my own speeches, my own talking points, so that it has a better flow.
Excellent. Awesome. Mary, would you like to introduce?
Yes, so I'm here because I'm coordinating this space. I do have to do presentations from time to time. I was talking about this with Caleb before. I tend to avoid them as much as possible. I've been to Toastmasters for a short time to practice some presentation skills, but I've got to the stage where they never got any more enjoyable, so if I don't have to do them, I don't, I avoid them. So yeah, it'd be great to get some tips and hints to make that process easier.
Excellent. Yeah. So some tips to get, so some tips there. Okay. All right, nice. So, what I have to share with you today will help you be able to improve your presentation skills, even if you don't like doing them. It will at least assist you in when you do have to do it, break glass in case of emergency. And my hope is that I will share some aspects about structuring a speech, which may be helpful for the future. Okay, cool. So we need to discover, when we talk about presentations are just a form of communication, but they do consist of 4 main components. And if you are a fan of Toastmasters, which I know Mary used to be part of, they really consist of 4 main components. Like, presentations are there to inform, they're there to entertain, they're there to persuade, and they're also there to inspire. So think of that as 4 overlapping spheres, or like a sort of complex Venn diagram. Most business presentations will end up becoming, they're sort of in between informing and persuading. But if you want to be able to present far more transformatively, they've got to incorporate both an entertaining aspect and an inspiring aspect as well. They've got to be able to do all 4. Now, most communication will tend toward either one or the other. Like, for example, if you're just entertaining, you're a comedian, right? Nothing in a speech. If they're to inspire, think of keynote speakers, people who just motivate you. Religious preachers, for example, would be inspiring speakers. However, business presentation is mostly around informing and persuading. And from the experiences that I've had with a lot of other presenters and speakers and business leaders, we don't have a problem of informing people. We don't necessarily have a problem with persuading, although sometimes that is an issue. We really have a problem with entertaining and inspiring our audience. So if we want to be able to communicate transformatively, we need to keep this in mind. Having said that, I'm going to share with you 4 main tips that I've picked up in my own presentation consulting experience that I hope will be able to help you in your next presentation. Right. Let's look at the first one. Part of it is don't over-rely on PowerPoint. Right, so Emily says don't over-rely on PowerPoint. Now, I'm assuming you all know what PowerPoint is. Emily, do you know what? Okay, thank goodness. Of course, I know, right? Like, so I was asking myself, like, because one time I actually talked about presentations in PowerPoint.
That kind of under the part.
Yeah, I will go into that a little bit, because I did ask some business leaders, okay, we're going to talk about PowerPoint. And a lady said, oh, what's PowerPoint? I'm like, is that the thing you plug in? Start the wall. So part of that is, if we over-rely on PowerPoint, it becomes too distracting. And when people think presentations, they think PowerPoint. Or Keynote, absolutely. And this advert from Telstra typifies it more so, right? So I'm not sure if you remember the advert.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this one here.
Who's got the presentation?
With Australia's fastest mobile hotspot, you can enjoy a new standard of speed, exclusive to Telstra. Thrive on a new kind of network.
Goodness. Right, so when we think of presentation, we think of PowerPoint. But the one thing I want people to remember is that your PowerPoint isn't your presentation, and your presentation isn't your PowerPoint. You are the presentation. Okay? So if that's one thing you can leave with, let that be it. You are the presentation. Right? But why use PowerPoint? Okay, so the first question you need to ask yourself is, do I need a visual aid to help me communicate my idea. If you're just going to read off the slide, it's probably pointless. Probably don't need it. Second question, obviously, can I deliver my presentation without it? If we were to have a blackout today, would I still be able to deliver my presentation? If the answer is no, then I have a problem. I'm too over-reliant on my slideshow. And we won't test it today, but if we did have a power blackout, I'd still be able to deliver today. Right. So the most important slide in your presentation, slide deck. Right? Does anyone want to have a guess what it is?
Questions and answers.
Questions and answers. That's significant. Yeah. Have a guess. What do you think of the most important slide in your
The
presentation?
most important part, what it's about, the theme.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. All right.
What data graph?
Graphs.
Yeah.
Okay. So graphs and visuals. Okay.
Yeah.
So all very, very valid answers. My opinion on this though is very different. It's this. Wait for it. Okay. This is what it is. It's this.
Yeah, slide.
That's it.
So that's 5 questions and answers. That's my last slide.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the most important slide. Why do you think that is?
Could you stop using the visual presentation to capture the audience away from you speaking?
That's correct. Remember, I'm the presentation. So what I find is that when speakers use PowerPoint, oftentimes your eyes are focused on that. You're not focused on them. But if you turn this off, it's like, oh wow, your eyes are now back on me. And we communicate 80% from non-verbal communication instead of just what we say. So it's important to cast your audience's eyes back on you. And technically, you can do that by using the B button on your computer or using the stop button on your remote. So that's a practical tip there you can use.
I don't think I have a stop button on my control. I have to look at that one.
Yeah, it could be like a blank.
Yeah, I have to look at that one. That's
Yeah.
right.
And my safety net to get it back, is that the B button again?
Absolutely, yeah. As a side note, you can use the white button to white it out, but don't do that because then people are just going to look at that.
Yeah.
So it's too
Quite
much.
distracting too.
Okay. So an important principle to understand with PowerPoint slides is that less is more. All right. So simplify your slides. Have one idea per slide.
Okay.
So if you're communicating an idea, it's okay to have that idea communicated on the slide. Just have one idea per slide. Many people have many ideas all at once, but that's not a good idea. If you do have many ideas and there's a sequence, make sure they build each one step by step. Right? So keep that in mind when we are crafting PowerPoint presentations. But please don't be so over-reliant on PowerPoint. The second biggest tip I see with a lot of my clients is that we need to simplify our data and tell more stories. Have you ever been bombarded with information and you've ever remembered it all? Unless you've got a brilliant mind, I don't think so. So the key important part of presentations is that they're there to help us get a gauge of what the message is about. And we don't do that by bombarding you with facts and statistics. Let me show you a slide that was actually presented at the Pentagon. This is a real slide. And okay, so the colonel here in charge, back in 2010, this is about how to overcome the Taliban in Afghanistan. If we understand this, we'll win the war in Afghanistan, is what he said. Oh wow, I can see why I can see why people struggle there. So obviously you can see data can overwhelm us, but there is a way we can display graphs, as you say, Emily, in a way that's going to be more palatable. And I resort to someone named Adam Grant, who is a TEDx speaker. You may have known Adam Grant. That's okay.
I think I've seen some of his TEDx. They're great. Is he the one who puts all that, puts an entire book on a page?
I think so.
With dot data and things.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's incredibly smart with data.
Yeah.
And in this TED Talk I'm going to preface, he talks about coming up with original thoughts. How do you guys come up with original thoughts?
I'm not creative, so I don't.
God, I don't know. I think it's kind of a random process.
Exactly, you're sort of on the right track. So there's a process of figuring out original thoughts. It's not by procrastinating, or it's not by precrastinating, which has been so proactive. It's sort of like a mix between the two. But there is a graph that he uses to leverage what he means here. So let's take a look at this clip and see what I mean by leveraging data to tell a better story.
Now, here are our results. You actually do see that the people who wait till the last minute are so busy goofing off that they don't have any new ideas. And on the flip side, the people who race in are in such a frenzy of anxiety that they don't have original thoughts either. There's a sweet spot where originals seem to live. Why is this? Maybe original people just have bad work habits.
We see here this graph is important. Hi, Paul, here you go. Just take a seat when you're ready. We see here that this graph is really quite special. So you can see here, for example, on the y-axis, there's no numbers. It's just a line that says creativity. And the x-axis, procrastinators and procrastinators. It's easy to grasp at first. And not just that, but he also uses narrative elements like characters from the story. So imagine you're a procrastinator, you're the monkey, or you're a procrastinator, you're like a frenzied monster. By incorporating narrative elements on top of a graph helps to bring a more narrative approach to the way we tell stories through data. And again, he's made emphasis or put emphasis on a part of the graph you should be looking at. So he's used size to incorporate that as well. So next time there's an annual report and you're going to copy and paste a graph into your slideshow, make sure you alter some aspects or recreate it so that it's easy for us to grasp what he's communicating. Now, would you agree that that's pretty easy to grasp and you know what he's saying? Absolutely. So make sure we incorporate that in our graphs. Also think about something called the punchline effect. Now, if I told you, what's the best thing about the Swiss flag?
The fact that it's red and white.
Okay.
Or that it's a symbol, hospital symbol as well.
That's a nice answer.
Is it red?
Is it the Red Cross?
It's
actually
a
Red,
white,
white cross.
Yeah.
white cross and red background.
Okay. The best thing about the Swiss flag, I don't know.
Symmetrical.
I don't know what it is, but it's a big plus.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I said there's a big plus on the Swiss flag, that's not as funny.
Yeah.
But by incorporating it into a joke, there's a punchline. And you can incorporate the punchline method in your presentations as well. This is how you do it. And you add suspense with it. I was working with a doctor named Jamie. He was a pediatrician. And he had to deliver a presentation to a medical conference. He was researching on an app about people who sneezed, or kids who sneezed in an app that could detect if they had pneumonia. So people who coughed in the app, they could detect if they had pneumonia. And so his presentation looked a little bit like this. And this is actually his slide. So sensitivity and specificity. Sensitivity is about the detection of if the kid actually has pneumonia, and specificity defines if the kid doesn't have pneumonia. Now, the World Health Organization says you need at least 62% sensitivity and 59% specificity. But the app presents an 88% sensitivity and 83% specificity. Pretty interesting. Now, compare it. I consulted with him and I said, okay, the way you presented that could have a little bit of work. So this is what I did. The World Health Organization has particular benchmarks when it comes to measuring someone's probability of having pneumonia. And the app has particular standards that it meets. Let's look at World Health Organization. World Health Organization has a sensitivity of 62% and a specificity of 59%. But guess what the app has? 88% and 83%. Now compare the two. Which one was more effective? The first one or the second one?
Definitely the second one.
The second one, right. So why do you think that was the case?
The way you delivered it, the colour.
Yeah, the colour can be an effective one. And again, black means that we're not bombarded with light. Yeah.
And you showed just that first, not them both at the same time as well.
That's correct. So when I was delivering this slide, for example, you already knew the punchline. Right? You already knew the answer was 83%. But here, I was able to deliver it when it was being said out of my mouth. So keep that in mind when you are putting together your slideshows. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a pop quiz as to what looks and what makes a good slide and what makes a bad slide. Let's see how you guys go. All right, is this a good slide or a bad slide?
Too much information.
TMI. All right,
Can't read it.
can't read it.
And you shouldn't read
It's like the credits at the end of the movie.
it. Yeah. The start of the Star Wars film.
All right, what about this one?
That's it.
Better, I only want to look at the cat though, not the information.
Yeah. Distracted by that.
Yeah.
But at least it's punctual and you can see what it's trying to get across.
Exactly, yeah. Right, what about this one?
It's not terrible, but
Quite a
you
few
are-
A lot on that
yeah,
too.
you're losing a lot of the whiteness and the blue at the bottom.
Sure.
Too many points.
Yes, I think so. There's just too many points. And if I were to explain it again, you'd know what I'm going to say next, because it keeps, it's all there. What about
No.
just that reaction
The
of
font is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a bad example of being BMC.
Combination of the three.
Yeah. And what about this one here?
Yeah, that's not bad.
I think it's too distracting in the colours if you've broken it out, coming out in separate points maybe, but it's quite distracting in the colours for me.
Right.
I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying from my perspective.
It's one of those
it's
ones that go either way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your audience would have to determine that, how you're presenting it.
That's right. It depends who the audience is. And I wouldn't put that up. I wouldn't keep that up for the sake of that. I'd turn it off immediately if I could. But that would make for a great handout
Yeah.
as well. So that's also something to consider. All right. So we've discovered the first thing, don't overline PowerPoint. The second one is to don't overdo it with data and tell better stories. So the third point is demonstrated in a script called The Office. Do you remember a show called The Office, Emily? Do you know a show called The Office? Okay, it's an American sitcom. It's actually a UK
No,
sitcom.
actually, don't
Don't sell the American
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Sell the British
that's
one.
blasphemy to even mention the American one.
Oh, man. Oh man, I don't.
Ricky Gervais was the
He was the original,
yeah.
right? Okay. All right. What I'm going to show you is something from the American Office.
Oh,
I'm sorry, man. I hope you still.
I'll see you on that now.
Okay, we can go now. All right. Okay. So the concept here is that Michael Scott, who's a general manager, has been promoted to as an excellent sales manager, and now he gets to tour around the other regional managers, other regional offices to tell them how to sell better. The thing is, this office that he's going to present at, they aren't interested in what he has to say. Okay? They're all bored, they're unmotivated. Okay? But what happens next is tragic. Let's take a look.
No! Oh my God. Oh no, that is so awful. That is the worst news. I have to go. I have to do a presentation. I'll talk to you. This is going to be hard for me to speak today because I just learned that my father has died. No, he didn't. He is alive. And this isn't even a cell phone. This is a calculator. But you bought it. And now you can't return it. Or can you? No, you can't. Yes.
No, I'm wondering, what are you talking about?
I am talking about how you all need to sell an experience. Like, I sold you on the idea that my father had died.
But now we think you're a liar.
Would a liar bring Minnie Mouse bars?
Okay, right. So a great example of what not to do. When I say, don't let your boardrooms become boardrooms, don't become boring like death by PowerPoint, and don't become Michael Scott as well. What he didn't do was he didn't read the audience well. One thing I do say to my speakers that prepare to speak is that they get so nervous sometimes. I don't know if I can present, I don't know if I can do this. And I say then to this, it's better to be present than perfect. Like it's better to read the room and to be able to make connections with people in the room rather than deliver a polished performance. And that's probably one of the biggest things that people need to remember, is that when delivering a presentation, it's not about your performance, it's about the way you can connect with people. And to be able to help them understand what is it you're trying to say. So quite simply, ensure that you're all present over perfect. And the fourth big thing I'd say, when making sure that your boardrooms aren't boring, is to have a strong call to action. I mean, we love to move forward, but we need, in the audience, we need to know what to do. So a lot of presentations miss this. It's like, okay, I'm just going to do the presentation, I'm going to put my PowerPoint together, I'm going to prepare the content. But sometimes the audience needs to know what they need to do as well. So always have a good, strong call to action. And this presentation will have a call to action. But before I go there, we've discovered, don't let your boardrooms become boardrooms. Don't over-rely on PowerPoint. Don't, simplify with data and tell more stories. Have a strong call to action, but also it's better to be present over perfect. I will get to the structure component a little bit after, but what have you guys picked up from today that may help you in your next presentation?
Simplify my slides. So
Right.
the type of presentations we give, I got an hour presentation coming up to several directors of board meetings, which, depending on their personality profile, depend on how much data they want. But simplifying that and putting it into a very simple thing to keep their focus, and also the B button.
Yeah.
And you use black backgrounds in all of your slides, or dark colored backgrounds, over white,
Yeah.
which is less obtrusive on your eyes.
Good point, Justin. How about you, Emily? Have you picked up anything from today?
It's all about how to prepare the PPT PowerPoint.
Yes. Okay.
Example.
Nice. Thanks, Emily. Yeah. Yeah. How about yourself?
Yeah, I particularly like the way of simplifying the data and getting it to tell a story. That was a great example.
Excellent. All right. And do you have any presentation-related questions that you might be thinking of?
I wish I had seen the whole thing.
The question is, can I see the whole thing? And yes, you can. It will be on video, so
Awesome.
what is that? You can see it. No?
No.
Oh, man.
Questions?
What a tough
I
question.
quite liked, I obviously came quite like it.
Yeah.
I really like that, the waiting to show something as you say it.
Yes.
Like that principle of not showing everything on one screen and then talking about it, but as you say it, bring it up and highlight it. That was simple but so effective.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, really cool.
All right, I've got a question. We have a presentation, I don't give it, but at the end of the year for our volunteers.
Yeah.
So the speech is just the same year after year. It acknowledges what volunteers do in different areas. There's no PowerPoint, and then we go through this kind of years of service and give out some awards.
Yeah.
So it'd be great to have some way to liven that speech up and to change it a bit.
Okay, yeah. Can I ask, do you incorporate, do you deliver that presentation yourself?
And our CEO delivers it.
Okay, let's imagine you're the CEO. How does the CEO incorporate personal stories in your speech? Okay, cool. This is a great dovetail in terms of how do I structure my presentation. Because let's use this. I use this structure in every presentation that I do, and I'm going to share it with you now. So now you know my secret sauce. Okay, cool. It's called Mr. Gap. And basically my presentation goes into this order. So the first component of my presentation, I talk about me. I talk about a personal connection that I have with the subject matter. Your CEO, for example, could be talking about, you know, in April, we had the hottest April in days, and the aircon was stuffing up. But I noticed a staff member helped turn the aircon on. I'm just making the story out. But he'd start with a story, which draws us straight to the tension point. Does anyone remember the first story I started with?
Yes. Yeah, when you're at school.
Exactly. So our brains are wired to just appeal to stories. So if we start with stories, and I don't mean like, back in 1987, I was born in June, no, don't start with all that backstory. Start at the point of tension of your story. Because every presentation you deliver is about solving a problem. And behind that problem is always a story. So, start with the story. The next component is to relate. You've been there, haven't you? You know what it's like when the aircon stuffs up and you're hot and you're bothered. Or you know what it's like when you're standing up and you're nervous as anything. So when you incorporate relational language into that part of the presentation, which usually sounds like you-type questions, like, you've been there, haven't you? You know what that feels like. That's the next part of the presentation. You want to relate the personal story to the audience's own issues. The next is the guide. Who's a good guide character from Star Wars?
Guide character.
Kirk.
Kirk?
Or
That's Star Trek?
oh, Star Wars. Oh,
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan.
yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Yeah.
Yoda?
Yeah.
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 Fantastic guide characters. Wizard of Oz? Who was it?
Sort of was.
You know every road?
Um,
No, guide characters. You've got a few. You've got the Lion, Tin Man.
the straw dude.
Yes, so you've got the hero, but you've got the guide character. So your job as a presenter is to be a guide to the audience. Your audience is the hero, by the way. So when I'm teaching my points about the 4 points about the things I've seen, they're me teaching you a path forward to present better. So that's where this is the teaching component of your presentation. The next component is apply. This is where you invite the audience to apply what you've taught them into action, which you haven't got to yet. And the next one is picture. You paint a picture of their future when they put that into action. So for example, the story about the Christmas story, the application could be, now we're going to hand out our awards, so the application is, let's give them a round of applause. And just imagine if we could continue to become a better library. What would your life look like if we continue to work together as a team? So he now starts painting a picture of next year. So that's what I would do. Just follow this formula, and you'll be able to come up with fantastic presentations that don't bore people. All right. Yeah, I hope that was helpful. I don't know if that's...
Yeah, no, I know the
Yeah.
steps. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
We made a presentation in a team. You have some tips for that. So we do a team presentation.
A team presentation? If, let's say, you communicate to the same people, like a status update?
We work in a team.
Yeah.
Then we have to prepare the presentation together and
Ah, right. So,
Working as a team.
working as a team.
yeah.
Yeah. For example, I know many, let's say, mega churches, they have what's called preaching teams. So you know how a priest or a pastor will preach a message, and they have someone called, so they have people who organise ideas for content. So I'd say someone should be delegated to speak, be the spokesperson, but then you delegate someone else to come up with fresh ideas for stories and fresh ideas for the application, for what you want people to do. Once you get clarity on that, let people be able to figure out what it is that speech should be about. Yeah. It's important though, when you are putting your presentation together, or figuring out as a team, that you get clear on these 3 metrics, okay? What do you want your audience to know? Clarify that in a sentence. What do you want them to feel? And what do you want them to do? Which is the application. Answer those 3 questions as a team, and you'll be able to figure out exactly what the speech should be about. Does that help answer that question, Emily? You can say no. Yeah, we can come back to that later. That's good. It's a good presentation. Cool. So, in terms of what I offer here at the State Library, and I'll discover what I've done here at the State Library. I've hosted these things called Speak Up Masterminds, and they help people be able to present far more effectively. What they do, they present the first week with a group of people like yourself, almost like in this situation, and then we give them feedback. Like, I think this is what you did well, I think this is what you do to improve. The second week they come in and they deliver it again, and then they deliver it with that feedback that they implemented in the first week. So we've done it here at the State Library, and I wanted to show you, if it's okay, what my participants have said. Right?
I've presented for years and years. It's what I've done for a living for close to 10 years now. And what I've really found beforehand was I wasn't as intentional in detailed areas?
Because the reality is, in a formal presentation environment, people are inclined to tell you what you'd like to hear, as opposed to what you need to hear.
The benefit of coming to this session is that you're not getting just the feedback from the people that you're training, but you're getting the feedback from other people in the room who are giving you specific feedback on how you're delivering, not just the message.
Without the help of others and the inputs of others, I might think I'm doing a good job, but I miss details that they pick up on. And so having that extra support and that outside perspective, that just helps me take my presenting to the next level.
You become aware of your strong points and also perhaps your less strong points as well, and both are equally important.
The question you've got to ask yourself is, are you happy where you're at, or are you looking to improve? And if that improvement's there, what you're really losing by not jumping in is what you could possibly gain.
This really is important. Presenting is the way to grow your business, because if you can present your message, whether it be in front of a room or even just on a one-to-one, if you can get your message out in a way that speaks to your target audience, your business will grow.